Hello, everybody. This is Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers on the History Channel, and I love to listen to TNC Radio.live.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome in, TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talking Live with your host, Tom Kyrk.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom. Glad to be here tonight and hope you'll enjoy the next hour as we gather around the counter of knowledge, share some ideas, tips, and tricks, much like we used to do a couple of years ago at the various truck stops around the country, where we would gather around with a lousy cup of coffee, a piece of bad apple pie, and some great conversation. So we try to do that here. But anyways, I hope you can all enjoy our topic this evening. You know, as much as I hate to admit it, winter is around the corner. And for those of you who used to attend the Great America Trucking Show here in Dallas at the end of August, you'll probably remember the unofficial betting pool that we had. What day and time of the truck show would the first reported snowfall from the Northwest come in? And I think in all the years I attended there, usually by sometime Friday around lunchtime to early afternoon, somebody would go, "Hey, it's snowing on Snoqualmie or the 4th of July or wherever it is." And we just all start laughing. It was like, who had 1 o'clock? So, you know, it's that time of year where you need to start getting ready for winter if you haven't started thinking about doing it. So we're going to be talking about getting your truck and your emergency kit ready for winter. Do you have a go bag, things to keep in it? And also we've got some of the old timers here to give some of their tips and tricks if you have to do that unenviable job of chaining up. So actually, let's just get into that tonight. I know, Jerry Fritz, you're here tonight, and we've talked a little bit over the years about chaining up and when to do it, when not to do it, as well as some of the tricks that you've discovered. How are you doing tonight, Jerry?
Okay.
So a while back, you and I got talking about chaining up, and, you know, a lot of companies have the policy, hey, you know, if the weather gets bad, you know, don't move. But sometimes you do have to go even in bad weather. Maybe it's a high priority load, or, you know, if I can get over the mountain now, I can stage myself. And you and I have discussed that some. But I remember one of the things you told me about, a couple things you told me. One, always make sure you've checked your chains and that you know how to use them. But number two, you told me you had a trick that made it a little bit easier to get those chains on and off of a winter.
Yeah, I did. I never got it developed exactly where I wanted it, but you can actually buy this now. It's called a chain ramp. I made it out of wood, but I could never get the hard wood that I wanted. It needed to be about 1 foot long, about 8 inches wide, and put bolts through it. What that is, you put that chunk of wood down. I used to watch the old LTL drivers over in I-5 in Oregon and Washington. I saw that. Boy, that's clever. So you put that chunk of wood down in front of the inside dual wheel, and you back up on it. That's simple. Well, then that lifts the outside wheel up off the ground. And then chaining becomes a lot more, it's never easy, a lot more easy. I'm watching Viking drivers one day. I said, "Oh, I got to get one of those." They even had leather straps on. They got out within a few minutes. Another thing about chaining is, and you know, I hear these people say, "Well, if you've got a chain, I'm not going to run." Well, I got a friend of mine, some of you know him on Sirius Radio, calls in a lot. Well, he didn't know a lot about this. And this past winter, he calls me one day. He says he's got to go from Yakima, Washington to Reno, Nevada. There's only one way to do that. You got to go all the way down 97 and a couple things like that. He didn't even know if he had enough chains. He didn't know anything about chaining, if he could do it. Coach, he gets about 40 miles south of Yakima, and he calls me. He says, hey, they got the chain off. That's 2-lane highway. That's a tough pass to get over. He didn't know how to chain. So it turned out it wasn't that bad. Not only that, I'm going to bring this up because I always assume everybody's taught this. He didn't even know. Bill's his name. He didn't even know about locking up the differentials on the drivetrain. Wow. So lock up the rear ends and hope for the best. He says, what's that? Oh, no. Now, he made it through there. It was a little bit touchy. It wasn't that bad. But then he gets on down. I routed him down through K Falls and so on and so forth, the back way down into Reno. And he calls me again. He says, what do I do now? I said, well, what's going on? And he said, they got the chain law up here, and it was north of Susanville on 395. Well, there is no place to park. You can't shut down for a day or two. So there are circumstances where you just got to plain know how to do it, or you're in some kind of trouble. Another thing that I learned from the old timers running the mountains in the West, ran them a lot. These guys had to chain 2 or 3 times a week. You take those old CF and PIE drivers out of Billings, Montana, over into Washington where they had the terminal. They might have to chain 3 times a day in the winter. Now, a difference on a union job, they got paid to chain too, by the way, but they still had to do it. They were day cabs. They had to get to the terminal. Number 1 is be prepared. Get a wetsuit. Again, I learned that from the old Viking drivers. Just watch it. Look at that. Those guys get out, pull on their wetsuits. The ones with suspenders like the bib overalls, and then they got a jacket with a hood on it. Yep. Because you're going to get wet and all that kind of stuff. So I learned, I got one, and I rolled it up. Some winters I didn't even use it, but I put it way down in the end where it was out of the way. But boy, the times I had to do it over on Lookout Mountain, over in Montana. You go west of exit 16 over there, there is no place, and you get to the rest area, and there's a sign that says chain laws required. Now what are you going to do? See, we used to, when there was a lot of activity on the CB radio, 100 miles before you get to these passes, you'd hear the old LTL union guys trading information. Hey, they're chaining on the mountain, they're chaining on 4th of July, or whatever. So you kind of know what to be prepared for. In the meantime, the people running sleeper operations just say, I don't know how to get over in there. I'll just lay over here at Missoula. Then many times when you're talking about that, unless it's still snowing real hard, I got to throw that in there. Same thing with like Cabbage or some of the mountains over in 84. If the snow is already passed through during the night, sometimes 10:30 in the morning, they finally get the roads open. Donner can be like that unless it's tied up for 3 days. Sometimes it's reasonable to wait it out. So get yourself a wetsuit. Make sure you have a very good flashlight. Because half the time you got to chain it's always night or some darn thing. Yep. Make sure you got good gloves. Now, when you put the chains over the tires, you get the links go over the top of the tire, and then you have what we call the rails. There are the chains that go around in a circle there that the links are hooked to. Well, you look at where the link hooks onto the rail. They got like clamps, like little claws. Yep. Make sure when you put the chain over the tire that those hooks, those little claws, are facing outward. Other than that, you got the chain on backwards, and those claws can actually cut your tire.
And that's definitely not good. And I do have one other tip I learned from a couple of the other old timers, and this maybe applies more to Donner, but a couple of the other mountain passes. Have couple $100 in cash on you, because there's usually somebody that's particularly a Donner who for around $100, $150 will put your chains on. Sometimes it's a little less than that, but if you've got a boss that will reimburse you, because his thought is, should you get tired, wet, and cold? That's nice. But at the same token, this last winter, I had a chain for the first time, and I had a co-driver with me, Jerry, who knew how to do it and showed me some of the ropes. But one of the first things I did after going over Donner, I went out and got me a canvas Carhartt jacket. Because like one of those big, heavy canvas Carhartt jackets.
Oh yeah,
Because being the canvas, it's a little waterproof. So if you have to get down on the ground or whatever, it kind of helps insulate you and keeps you a little drier. But we're coming up here on our first break, so we're gonna go ahead and take that. Well, we could be back. We've got Bruce and Christine here, as well as Mike Sheffield on hold. So we'll be bringing all of them on here. If you'd like to participate in the conversation, it's 706. TNC0. That is 706-862-8620. If you want to join in on the conversation tonight, as we talk a little bit about getting ready for winter, because that time is coming up. The Colorado chain carry law starts September 1st. So you want to be ready for that. Anyways, we'll be right back here after this break.
Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Kortman every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. As a professional driver, you are always being told about the importance of physical fitness, your health. But what about mental fitness? On the show each week, we take on a new topic, from loneliness to the power of gratitude to how to build strong relationships, all from the perspective of a driver's life. It's every Monday on TNC Radio Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Building Strong Minds.
This info blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Mental health resources for truck drivers. Truck drivers are the backbone of America. They're the unsung heroes. Nearly every good consumed in the United States has been transported in a truck. Because of how challenging truck driving is, truck drivers often portray the image of being tough. Mental health is not a discussion that many truckers will have among each other. The truth is, truck drivers are human. They have their emotional and mental struggles just like every other working American. The only difference is that truck drivers face unique factors that put them more at risk for depression and other serious mental health issues. According to the Transport Workers Union, 1 in 5 truck drivers has experienced mental health issues. Depression and anxiety are the top mental issues that truck drivers face. Mental health resources for truck drivers. With truck drivers spending more time on the road than at home, it can be difficult to get help for their mental health struggles. Now, thanks to modern-day technology, truck drivers can get help right from their smartphones. Esper. Esper is a national behavioral health company with a mission to help people and organizations reach their full potential. Esper offers a continuum of behavioral health care, from acute to chronic health conditions to leadership development, including Fit to Pass, a coaching program to assist professional drivers in maintaining good health and pass their DOT recertification physical exams. BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest e-counseling platform. They have access to licensed, trained, experienced, and accredited psychologists, marriage and family therapists, clinical social workers, and board-licensed professional counselors. To get starters, take a quick questionnaire and BetterHelp will match you with a therapist that's right for you. Mutts for Trucks. Mutts for Trucks is an organization that helps truck drivers find the perfect four-legged friend for the road. Their mission is to bring more good to a community that brings so much good to us. It's been proven that owning a dog can drastically decrease isolation, depression, and cardiovascular disease. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. If you feel that you need help for your mental health struggles while on the road, we also recommend reaching out to your carrier and seeing what options they may have available for you. For more information on mental health, go to the blog section at The Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF. is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo, tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back in, TNCRadio.live. This is a Wednesday night, August the 3rd. You're listening to Keep On Talkin' Live. Here's your host, Tom Kyrk.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate that. We're having a conversation tonight about getting ready for winter. You know, we hate to talk about the S word here on the station. Yes, I said the S word, snow. Hopefully the FCC won't find me for that. But it's one of those things. Hey, September 1st is coming. That's when Colorado starts their chain carry law over their various mountain passes. And various other states have various, chain or snow removal laws that we've talked about at different times on the station and the show. And it's that time to start getting ready and thinking about it, making sure you've got your chains, your various tools you need, whether you use the tarp straps or the spiders to help secure chains. All that stuff, make sure it's a good working order because you don't want to get caught out and discover you need it and don't have it. Hey, Jerry, there's a couple more points you said you wanted to make here before we let you go and bring somebody else on. I know you were talking a little bit earlier off air about some of the ways that you get information about some of the chain laws.
Yeah, there's 800 numbers. There's an 800 number. I forget what they call it. Montana uses it, Idaho. In fact, almost every one of those you call in on highway information, basically, what the roads are open, closed. Sometimes they give you where they're chaining on certain passes. And you can actually select the states. I can't tell you what the darn thing is. I've got it on my phone somewhere. But, in that way you'll know ahead of time. If you don't want to chain, don't get up in there. Another thing, everybody cusses this. I don't like it either. But unless you've ever driven with chains on, you can't begin to understand how much more secure you actually feel. There have been times going into Wenatchee, Washington, where I was empty. There's a big pass up there. Snow, the highways, road, snowpack, this, that, and the other. I get out and throw a single chain on the trailer before I started down a mountain because I didn't want to jackknife them. You'd be surprised. Once you get on those chains, now it's bumpy. This is a smooth ride, but you don't have to worry about slipping and sliding and jackknifing and all that. That in itself, once you've experienced it, it will not be as hard for you to accept it. Maybe it's not a bad idea today. You see everybody else slipping and sliding, worrying, you're just clunk, 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 clunk right along. Another thing what is it on the internet where people go and they learn all the different things? What is that website?
There's a couple of them,
types of things.
But the main one that I use for the winter information, for like the highways and things like that, is I use safetravelusa.com because that gives links to all the different states there. You can also call 511 when you're in a state, and that will give you the road information for that state as well.
Now, I'm talking about on the internet, where people go to learn how to do all things.
You can do like a Google search or YouTube, one of those.
YouTube. There are some pretty good sites on YouTube that actually, step by step, there's people on there that show you how to put the chains on.
Yep.
Go review those. Now, also, if you don't get them tight, certain things happen. Sometimes the chains roll, things go wrong. If you ever hear all of a sudden, bang, 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 under the trailer, you broke a link. Get that chain off. Those broken links can actually tear the I-beams off from underneath of a trailer. They can do real bad damage. Yeah. Now, what I did to mitigate that, I go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, and you get those little clamps, those little links that you can screw one end to the other. All right, get them in stainless steel so they won't rust. And if you break a link, get out and put one of those, hook it in the link, and tighten it up. So your link isn't broken anymore. That can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. It's the 511 number. Be prepared and go to, you just mentioned it, YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube.
There's a couple really good ones down there. Yeah.
Well, I
learned how to do it. I have to guess.
And that's a good thing. And I know last year, and I'm pretty sure for this year, as it gets a little closer to winter, we'll have some winter driving tip suggestions and even some links to some of those videos on the tncradio.live page. Hey, thank you so much for calling in tonight, Jerry. I'm going to let you go here so we can bring on a couple of the other callers that we've got here. I appreciate your information and knowledge.
Okay.
So anyways, Bruce, how are you doing tonight, and Christine?
I'm doing wonderful.
I'm good.
Hey, Bruce, let's go to you real quick, because I know when we were on the break there a little bit, you were kind of chiming in on some thoughts you had about winter driving and some emergency preparedness tips.
Slow down. Basically, Jerry covered everything as far as chaining up and where to go find out which passes are open, which passes need changed. But slow down. Do not stay in a pack. That's the worst thing you can do, is stay in a pack.
Yep.
Because you may be the safest driver, but somebody's going to be a cowboy and go on up past you, flying by you, and next thing you know, everybody's stopping.
I know this last winter when I was going with my co-driver through Wyoming, they had just opened up the roads there for Elk Mountain, and we were among the first few trucks out of the Sinclair Rawlins area, in the first, let's say, 50 or so. And about 10, 20 minutes up the road, there was already trucks in the ditch and everything else. And you pretty much knew that they were getting ready to shut it down behind us, because in both directions there was problems. And you could pretty much see the officers just standing there with their hands in the air going, really? But one of the questions...
Every year.
It does. And one of the questions I forgot to ask Jerry here, Bruce, in your opinion, if you're running chains, about how fast do you think you should go at maximum?
No faster than 20. I go no faster than 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
If I have to chain up.
And I know a few people go a little faster, but yeah, 20. Let's say that 25 to 35, 40 seems to be a relatively good speed. Because the other thing, if you're running your differential lock, most trucks don't like you going much over 20, 25.
I think they say 30. So 30 would be the tops.
Yeah,
but you got to understand too. Okay. Just because you got chains on, going through snowpack is fine. But you get snowpack that's on top of ice.
Yep.
And you get down to the ice, well, you got steel and ice. And what usually happens? You slide.
You can slip and slide. And I mean, I think the number one thing to remember if you're using chains, I've learned from some of the old timers is, we say this every year. You see people driving around like lunatics with their 4-wheel drives thinking, I have a 4-wheel drive. I'm invincible. Well, you see people that are using chains, and they think they're invincible, just like the people with the 4-wheel drive. And 9 times out of 10, who's the first one you see in the ditch?
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Bruce, that you've been here for a while, and Christine, I'm going to ask you this question in a second. Do you have a go bag or an emergency bag on the truck? And if so, what do you keep in it?
Okay, I don't have one. I will put one on the truck when it's time. A good flashlight with extra batteries. A 3-wick candle.
Yep.
Some gloves, a hat that you can pull over your ears. Always carry an extra couple blankets on the truck, besides what you have on your bed.
Yep.
Thermal underwear, insulated coveralls. Because you never know, yeah, we can idle for a while, but if you're stuck up on a mountaintop and you're there for maybe 3 days, all depends on how much fuel you got when you got stopped, whether you're going to be able to keep going or not.
Exactly.
And you never know when the truck will break down.
That's true, because if it gets cold enough out there, we haven't mentioned gelling yet, but gelling is a real possibility, even if you're using something like Power Service House, fill in the blank.
Exactly, and a lot of
go ahead. Sorry,
a lot of companies don't want you to do that. My company, for instance, doesn't want us to put additives in.
I used to work for a company that had that philosophy until they had 300 to 500 trucks freeze on one night. We started using additives the very next day. 500 trucks times $1,000 minimum. Need I say more?
Nope. But depending on where I'm going, what part of the region I'm running.
Yep.
I'll go ahead and do it whether they want it or not.
Exactly. And we'll talk more about that here. We're coming up on a break that we need to take here at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to Keep On Talking Live. We're gathered around the counter of knowledge today, where the conversation's hot, the coffee's cold, and the apple pie sure is awfully lousy. But anyways, we're having some great conversations tonight about getting ready for winter, some winter preparedness, tips and tricks to make your life a little bit easier this winter. Stay tuned for more right after this.
Hi, I'm Hope Savara. Join us every Monday on TNC Radio Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Building Strong Minds.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Kortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. The great Alfred Adler used to talk about children quite a bit, and he said, children are very astute observers, but they draw erroneous conclusions about what they've observed. Therefore, they need adults to help them translate what they're witnessing and to put a good perspective on it. Case in point, years ago, a 4-year-old boy watched his father in the backyard swimming pool going headfirst down the slide into the water. When he hit the water, his hairpiece came off. Nothing was said. It was not a big deal. But several weeks later, at the boy's birthday party, everyone was going down that same slide into the pool. The boy's father challenged him to go head first and even pushed him. And all the way down the slide, he screamed, "No!" Great tears. When he finally hit the water, he was hysterically crying. The father said, "What's wrong? What's wrong? You've been down the slide 1,000,000 times." And he said, "I don't want my hair to come off." Excellent observation, quite astute, but an erroneous conclusion. So what do we do with that? We ask children what they're thinking. We find out how they're processing things. We give them the opportunity to feel safe to tell us what's on their mind. And wherever it's necessary, we correct their thinking. We give them more accurate information. and information that helps them to feel safer and better about themselves. And then hopefully they'll be able to keep their head and keep their hair.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune into the Truckers Network Show with Shelley Johnson. Weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Welcome in TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talking with Tom Kyrk.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom. And we're back here at the Counter of Knowledge, and we are joined by Mike Sheffield, Bruce Richards, and Christine Gray. And we've been talking tonight about about getting ready for winter and emergency preparedness, having a go bag, a whole bunch of different topics that's all related to getting you ready for winter. Remember, as much as we hate to admit it, it's right around the corner with all these different states and their various chain laws starting as early as September 1st. So, now's the time to be prepared. Make sure you've got everything you need so you don't get stuck out there in the middle of a trouble or even get a fine for not carrying chains. Hey, Colorado, even when good weather after September 1st through May 31st, if you're going to go over the mountain passes, you better have enough chains with you. So if they say put them on, you've got them. Hey, Christine, we haven't given you a chance to speak yet. We'll come back to you here in just a minute, Bruce. How are you doing tonight, Christine?
I'm doing well. Sitting up here in Jersey.
Hey, I'm glad you're... What was that?
I said my favorite place.
Oh, hey, you got to love it. But anyway, so what are some of your thoughts about what we've been talking tonight? What are some of the things, because I know as a trainer, you teach your students emergency preparedness. What are some of the things you do? Because I heard you gasp in horror when you heard people talking when Jerry mentioned that people didn't know what a differential lock was.
I did. Well, you know what? When I first started driving in 96, one of the first companies I worked for had single axle tractors, max weight inside the trailer, 25,000 pounds. And we would run in the winter up into Michigan out of Chicago or down into Indianapolis. And one of my very first learning experiences, not having chains or, not running, twin screws is, I managed to snap a drive shaft and blow out a differential because I didn't know, because it's when I first started driving, that if you have the tires spinning at maximum speed because you're stuck on ice and you hit the brake, you snap everything in half.
Ooh.
Gone. Just shattered. I learned that the hard way. So
I'm gonna guess the boss wasn't exactly happy.
Well, you know what? And believe it or not, I didn't get in as much trouble as the tow truck driver who hooked it wrong and ripped off the top flarings.
Ooh, yeah, that was a bad day.
It was a bad day, but so years later, when you're hooking up to when you have your first twin screen, you're going out for the winter for the first time, and you're in the Northeast. He was talking, Jerry was talking about the West Coast. We have many places in the Northeast, that require chains. And most of us, unless you've been on those back roads and hit a sign that says, hey, chains required, you don't know that.
Yeah. And there's a few places, Pennsylvania, Vermont, New Hampshire, some of the, and parts of actually real of northern New York, for that matter,
and Connecticut. Yes,
we don't talk about Connecticut on this station. That governor hates truckers, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're going up there, and all of a sudden you hit one of those spots, and now because I've been pulling a tank wagon since 2001. Every company I've ever been with, including when I owned my own, we have chains on the truck because we go into all those, northern states, western states, whatever. As soon as you cross, that on, September 5th, you have to have chains on, or is it September 15th?
Well, for Colorado, it's September 1st. So I just use September 1st because it's easier.
Okay, so, but you know that you have to have chains on, and depending on which state you're on, you have 2 sets or you have 3 sets. One of those states requires 3 sets. But the golden rule is, as a tanker truck, it doesn't make a difference if I put chains on this truck. The liquid inside is still going to push me on ice.
Yep.
So no, we park. So yes, the chains are on the truck, but no, we are not allowed to put them on the truck. We are parking. I had one trainee park in a rest area up on I-70 2 years ago for 4 days.
Now I'm going to ask a question that Jerry kind of brought up earlier here, because as a tanker driver, particularly if somebody's driving tanker for the first time. So let's say you're on one of those U.S. highways, and pick a state, doesn't matter where. You got to put your chains on, and you've got just a little pull-off area. Is it a case where you should throw your chains on to get to a better area, or just stay in that pull-off area? We're not talking a rest area. We're just talking a chain-up area, along the side of the road.
So one, that comes to trip planning. This literally has to do with trip planning. You're looking so far out, and your weather patterns and how bad it's going to look. No, we're not looking to get to that chain off area. We're looking to pull off way before that. Way before that. We will park 150, 200 miles way before that. It's not worth your life. The load is not worth your life in any way, shape, or form. So for us, again, that's what we teach. You're not putting chains on this truck. Have I done it? Yes. I did it at Loveland Pass, and I'd never do it again.
Oh, wow. Of all the passes in the country to do it, I don't know about you and Mike and Bruce, but I just puckered on that one, and not in a good way.
I'll tell you something. It was the first time I'd ever been up there. I only had, and I did not know this at the time. It was my first trip out there. And when I got to the port of entry, I pulled off and had to call into my company for them to send me money to buy chains. And I had to learn how to set them up right then and there on the side of the road. And I was lucky though. I had DOT sitting right there and actually helped me because it was the first time. This would have been 2006, and I cried going up and pissed my pants going down.
Yeah, and from what I've heard about Loveland Pass. Even in good weather, you pretty much do that as well.
Yes, it was. That's why I think they sent me out there without any, because they weren't planning on it. I was actually going to Washington State, and they had no idea. None.
Yeah.
So it got, I guess, I don't know, it was a snowstorm, whatever it was, but it was snowing. I had skiers flowing, down in front. But anyway, neither here nor there. So when I do train like that pack you're sticking in, when Bruce was talking about sticking in a candle, absolutely. Extra blankets. I have 4 extra blankets in this truck. My bunk is made like it is for winter all year round. I have 2 cases of water in my truck.
Can we go back here just for a quick second? I want to go back to the candles. 2 things important to remember that people don't sometimes think about. If you're going to burn a candle in your truck, please crack a window at least an inch, because carbon monoxide can build up on the truck. And it seems like every year you hear a story where a driver didn't do it. Number 2, get a bucket of sand or something to put your candle in. And number 3, keep a fire extinguisher in the back with you.
This is a hazmat tanker truck, so I kind of have to have one in the truck.
Well, but I'm not just talking the one by the driver's seat. I'm talking wherever you've got that candle burning, keep a fire extinguisher in the back compartment with you, because if for some reason a fire starts and you're in the back and the fire extinguisher up front, we've all heard the horror stories.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, you have to use common sense. You have to teach common sense, and they have to have common sense. We don't do stupid shit. I mean, stupid. We don't do stupid things. This is when you're talking about here in this, in this environment, because it again, like I said, we don't stick chains on this truck because no load is worth your life. Same thing with keeping warm. We have to keep warm. The chick I had sitting up on I-70 for 4 days, we had to have DOT bring her fuel because she was an idiot and didn't put fuel in her truck before she stopped to take a 30-minute break. They shut down the road.
Oh, Lord.
While she was in there. So, again, you have to, I mean, this is all about trip planning. These are the things that you're supposed to do. And remember, you are the professional. You get paid to do this.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing.
Yep.
Make sure you have at least a half tank of diesel with you at all times, if not
day.
more than that.
Every day.
It may mean you have to stop a little bit more often, but I remember when we had that real bad cold spell, was it 2008, 2009? DEF was gelling up. Hell, some of the truck stops were gelling up on fuel. So trying to get a pump some days was a real challenge.
The boilers,
go ahead.
Sorry. You're talking about, I was in Dallas and the boilers at the tank wash froze over.
That's cold.
Mm-hmm. That's how I remember it because it was so bad.
But on that note, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back for our last and final segment. We'll say hello to Mike Sheffield, wrap everything up on the show for getting ready for winter, because you know what? You don't want to be that popsicle of a driver. So stay warm out there, be safe, and most importantly, be smart. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
Hear the best of TNC Radio.live every night. It's TNC Radio Prime Time. Interviews, music, information, and news you can use every night, 7 to 9 Eastern, 6 to 8 Central, TNC Radio Prime Time.
This info blog on TNCRadio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Spring is near. Cleaning tips for truck drivers. Spring's right around the corner. That means saying goodbye to the cold winter weather and hello to the warm sunshine. For many people, it's time to start spring cleaning at their house. For truckers, this could mean cleaning out their truck. It's not uncommon for truck drivers to spend more time on the road than in their house. Having a clean, organized truck can make life on the road much more enjoyable and less stressful. Here's some spring cleaning tips for truck drivers. Clean and organize. It's always a good idea to incorporate a cleaning routine into your work schedule. After all, your truck reflects who you are as a driver. A clean and well-organized truck can take a lot of stress out of your job as being a truck driver. It also makes you more prepared in the event of a DOT inspection. Take some time this spring to clean out and organize your truck. Throw away the trash, donate or get rid of things that are not a part of your daily use. Go through your paperwork and organize it. Finally, wipe down the inside of your truck. Get a wet cloth and wipe down your dash, air vents, and other areas you feel need cleaning. After you wipe everything down, pull out your vacuum and start vacuuming the carpets, floor mats, and vents. Wash and wax. The winter months can be hard on the exterior of a truck. All the snow and de-icing salts can make your truck look pretty rough. Start washing your truck from the top and work your way down. Use microfiber cloths to clean your windows and windshields. Maintenance. Failing to stay up to date on your truck's maintenance means you're less likely to spot a problem before it occurs. This can end up costing you a lot of money and time off from work. Not only do you save money and time by regularly performing maintenance on your truck, but you're also more likely to pass a roadside inspection. The spring season is a great time to perform a maintenance check on your truck. Check fluid levels and make sure your lights and windshield wipers are working. Snow and ice take a toll on brakes and tires. The transition from cold to warm weather can affect your tire pressure. Check your brakes and make sure they're not worn out. Be sure to check out the blog, 6 Easy Steps for Keeping Your Semi-Truck Interior Clean, from the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
As a professional driver, the engineers at Front Lane know that you remain focused on the road regardless of weather and traffic conditions. That's not always true of the drivers behind you. Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standards set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states. It's Tailbone by Frontlane.
Welcome back in, TNCRadio.live. This is Keep On Talking Live, and here's Tom Kyrk.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom. We've been having a great conversation both on and off air tonight about getting ready for winter, being prepared, and all the things that you should carry on your truck or do to be prepared. You know, we've had ideas to make your chaining up a little bit easier, emergency suggestions for your emergency kit. Hey, Bruce, you were actually made a suggestion off air about using the candle of a winter in your truck to make sure you stay safe. What was your idea there?
What they make coffee cans for.
Yep.
They are perfect to put your candle in.
And you get a better heat score.
Yes, you do. You do. And you'll be surprised that one of those big 3-wick candles
Yep.
on the floor in your truck will actually heat the inside of that truck.
And I think we've seen, I don't know about you, but I know I've seen on YouTube some of those. Go ahead, sorry.
Put kitty litter down on the bottom, put the candle on top of that, and go ahead and light it. And then, if you don't need it, if you got to put it out, you put the cover back on, save it for next time.
Exactly. And actually, that's a great suggestion that you gave there. Carry a jar or two, a bag or two of kitty litter in your in the back of your truck, because if you do get on some ice at the truck stop and need to get moving, it's amazing sometimes what a little bit of kitty litter or sand can do to help you get moving.
That too.
And so it's got that dual purpose there. Hey, Mike, I want to bring you on and say hello. How are you doing tonight?
Sitting over here looking like this. How y'all?
Hey, we're doing pretty good. And man, if I was looking as good as you, I'd be rich and wealthy.
Yeah, sure you would.
But I want to give you a chance.
The conversation. I'm glad you didn't ask me no question. You asked me a question about chains. This is going to be some dead air because 32 years, I don't even know how to put them on.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll ask you that. Well, actually, the answer to that question is you slide the ring on your finger and say, "I do."
Actually true. Very true.
But okay, now that I've just alienated half my listeners, actually, the one question I do have for you, Mike, is there anything you keep on your truck for emergencies, whether it's winter or in general?
Snickers bar.
Actually, that's not a bad answer.
I keep Snickers bar all the time, and I'm not even joking. I've never had them. I've been laid over for days before, but like Christine, I don't even try. I mean, I'm very upfront about it. I'm gonna pull over if it looks like it might get bad. I just don't do it. The CDL allows me to pay my bills and buys my groceries. I'm not doing anything to put that in jeopardy over one load. I got a career to look out for.
And I'll be honest, this last winter was the first and only time I've ever changed up in 16 years of driving, and there was a reason for it. But it was one of those days when me and my co-driver went over the mountain in question. I think 30 minutes after we started going over the mountain, they lifted a chain law. But we're looking at each other going, why is the chain law even up? And I think by the time we got to the other side, it could have been lifted. It was Donner. But the thing is, it could have all easily went the other direction. A couple hours later, it was back up again. And that's one of the things is you never know. But like I said, that load was a bit of a different story than normally. And normally our boss would route us around it. But the problem was all the routes around it were equally as bad. So it was, that situation we saw a lot of last winter. But I know a lot of companies that I've worked for in the past, if it's bad weather, you stop it. And one thing that we haven't mentioned that I always like seeing in an emergency pack in a truck, car, doesn't really matter what it is, one of these battery backup banks. There's a whole bunch of them, whether it's from Tough Tested or whatever company you prefer to get it from. Getting one of those, whether it's a hurricane preparedness kit, winter car kit, truck kit, or just an emergency kit where if you have to leave your house in a hurry to go to the hospital or whatever, having one of those and a couple power cords can not only make your life a lot easier, can make you a lot of new friends when people realize that, hey, there's an emergency and they can charge your phone to get a hold of a loved one. So that's a great tip that I have there. Hey, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to bring in Catwoman here real quick. I know she wanted to say hello and add a couple thoughts. How are you doing tonight, Catwoman? Well, I think we have her.
I'm here.
There we are. How are you doing tonight, Dora?
Good. How are you, Tom?
Good. How have you been? We've only got a minute or two left here before the top of the hour. What are some of your thoughts about winter preparedness?
Well, since I'm a really big stickler on this, the very first thing I'm going to say is don't always depend on the cell phones that you have. We always carried a cheap flip phone or something like that, one of the older phones with us. Or if we traded phones out, we always kept one of the phones back instead of turning them into the company just as a backup. In case you're stuck somewhere or something happens and your phone's out, you always have a backup phone right there on the spot. You don't have to worry about tracking down a telephone store. You're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. And I'd say the other thing is definitely on the weather. I don't know what you covered on this. I tried to listen, but I couldn't get off my other call. Definitely on the weather. In fact, I still do that to this day, even though I don't drive. Not only for Road Dog, but I have several drivers call me, to help them track the weather. I've taught several of them how to do it well ahead of time. But sometimes if they're driving and they're tight on schedules and stuff like that, I always tell them, go ahead and call me and I'll help you out with that. But yeah, that's the biggest thing is the planning on that. And let's see, was the telephone, but I'm trying to think what else that was offhand.
Well, those are some good tips
but on the...
And I hate to be that person, but we're getting that close to the top of the hour, and Flo started to flash those lights at me and warn me that, hey, we got to close up here soon. Tonight is going to be a replay of the bombs. It'll be a special episode with tail lights, and then coming up, we're going to have Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Baker. That's a great show. Lots of great show.